Welcome, everyone, to the Church Solutions podcast. My name is Phil Thompson.
And I'm Steve Lacy.
Steve, what's going on today?
We have an international guest. What
We
is
do.
going on? We're getting ready for Thanksgiving.
Yeah,
So,
we have a guest today. It's international, which we will introduce in a moment. Most people are going to hear this after Thanksgiving, but yeah, it's the holiday season, right? Thanksgiving, and then eventually we're going to get into Christmas, and so a lot
my
of
wife
things going
reminded
on.
me, she said, "Aren't you excited? We get to put up Christmas decorations this weekend because that's kind of
Uh,
our family tradition." And I've
yeah.
mown and grown all year, every year.
Well, my
So,
wife is scheduled to have surgery tomorrow, so we'll probably spend Thanksgiving in the hospital. So
uh,
there you have it. But she's having a
I've
back
done
issue.
that once.
Did you? You spent Thanksgiving in the
Um,
hospital?
we did because
Wow.
our third son was going to be induced on Thanksgiving. And so we were at the hospital and they were checking him out and decided, no, we're not going to induce you. So he was born like a week or two later. But
Okay.
yeah, but we messed our Thanksgiving up. It was kind of funny. We went to a Sizzler for lunch for Thanksgiving because we
All
got
right.
out of the hospital and went to Sizzler. So
All right. You
it's a
said you're.
memorable Thanksgiving.
Well, absolutely. Well, when you said your son was going to be induced, I thought your son was pregnant, but your
My
wife was going
wife
to be
was going to
induced.
be induced
Okay.
with
All
our
right.
third son. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, look. Enough of this. Let's get to our guest today. And let me put my glasses on to read her bio. This is episode, I believe, 408. I think I'll look at it later. But today's guest is a transformation designer who helps organizations and individuals stay human in an increasingly digital world. Well, that alone, she's worth whatever they pay her for that, right? But her work over the last 20 years focuses on better aligning purpose, values, and ethics with the business and technological world out there. She has done this by founding Gnowbe, and that's spelled Gnowbe. We'll get to that in a moment. But it is a software platform that has it's designed to humanize how we learn and engage. And she also did the Awaken Group, which is a human-centered transformation design firm. She is the author of Inside Out and is a global speaker and a thought leader where she regularly speaks and writes about tech and values and humanity and the future of human development at many places. One of those is the World Economic Forum. She holds a BA with honors from the University of Pennsylvania and an MBA from Harvard University. Please welcome So-Young Kang to the Church Solutions podcast. So-Young, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here, Phil and Steve. Good to see you again.
And you're in Singapore right now, so it's really late where you're at.
It is. Yeah, I'm actually an American from New York and LA, but I've come in and out of Singapore and I've been here for a dozen years.
Wow, that's pretty cool. All right, so what is we got a lot of questions here, and Steve usually jumps in and does them, but I'm going to start off by asking you. I mentioned Gnowbe, and you're founder of that and the CEO. What is Gnowbe?
It's a great question. So first of all, it's really hard to spell and pronounce if you get it wrong, and I'm really impressed that you pronounced it correctly. It stands for Grow Knowledge into Being. So it's a nerdy name because I'm nerdy, but essentially it's a creator tool. It's an authoring tool that empowers anyone to design and quickly author training, engagement, communications. Think of it like PowerPoint meets YouTube meets Instagram on steroids.
I love that explanation. That's great. So, what inspired you? Well, Steve, you want to ask some questions here, right? I mean, I don't want to just take over here.
I was digesting the PowerPoint meets YouTube meets Instagram. So there's and that really is a really good explanation. I hadn't heard that before. So it's a learning tool, which would be kind of learning content, which is kind of the PowerPoint side. And then YouTube, you have videos and kind of how-tos and things. And then there's a bunch of interactivity to ensure that there's engagement with the learning, right? So It's not necessarily just go through this PowerPoint thing and do this quiz at the end or something like that, which is, I came from the aerospace world in my former life. And so I went through a lot of those kind of training things. So tell us, how does it, the interesting part for me is the Instagram and YouTube part. Tell us more about that.
Sure. Well, first of all, I worked for Citibank many, many years ago, and I believe they're still doing that kind of training. And that was like 20 years ago. And I think they're still doing that kind of boring training where you watch a video, you push play, and then you go get coffee, you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, is it done yet? Or I try to accelerate it. And then you take a quiz at the end, which tests your memory, right? So I think companies and churches and people are still doing that today. And so the YouTube and Instagram thing is actually about the creation. Anyone can create a YouTube video, right? Anyone can create an Instagram post. Anyone can create PowerPoint. Now, all of those mediums, while at times can be engaging, are still primarily talking at people. They're not really inviting participation. And so what Gnowbe does is it's more than those things. It goes beyond that to invite participation, because impact comes from participation, just like we're having a dialogue right now. And so as we have a dialogue, we engage with each other, we participate in the conversation, and hopefully then the stuff we talk about will stick more because we engaged and we participated in it.
So you're probably, I'm a novice at this, but there's audio learners, there's visual learners, there's experiential learners. I'm butchering this all up. I'm sure you know all the different learning techniques. Give us a brief, set me straight on what are the types of learning and what types the Gnowbe utilizes.
Well, I'm going to answer your question in two different ways. So one is multimodal. So there is the type of learning, which is, like you said, the audio, visual. So I'm not an oral learner. So I don't really listen to podcasts, which is why the irony is we're doing a podcast, but I can't learn that way. So I'm more visual or experiential. Some are very tactile, right? They need to touch and feel things to do things. So you have those learning styles and modalities. Gnowbe supports all the learning modalities, but what's more interesting actually is learning motivations. So in some research that we had done, we tried to find out why people learn, especially adults. We're all busy people. We're all running things. We're working at our church or volunteering. We're super busy. Why do we learn? And the interesting thing we found from learner motivation was that the majority were not interested in learning for the sake of learning.
Yeah.
And that was interesting, right? Because most of our content is designed assuming that the person on the other side is dying to consume our content. Right.
But they're not.
Unfortunately, I'm so sorry, but unfortunately, they're not. Even when they're listening to your sermon, you think that they're all with a pen and paper and they're just dying to just learn and take down everything that you said. But there are many other motivations. So those motivations include achievement. I want to accomplish something. Or I'm a helper. I want to help people. So I want to take what I've learned and I love sharing it with others. Or I'm responsible. I'm a responsible learner. I was told to do this. I got to do it because it's just got to be done. Right. So depending on and I'm a selective learner. So for me, and this actually cuts across my entire life, even at church. I'm sorry, pastors, but I will not pay attention. I can't pay attention the whole time. And I may not read a book fully, or I may not even attend a class fully. I'll pick and choose chapter 2 and chapter 7, and I'll selectively pick what I want. And then I will learn. And I'm motivated by curiosity and just getting what I need. So when you think about the different motivations, Gnowbe was designed to understand that humans are motivated differently. So we created different interventions to help with the different learner motivations.
Yeah, and Gnowbe is primarily a mobile app, right? Is that
mobile first, and it's web enabled.
Web enabled, okay. Yeah. And so the model is, you've used this with churches as well, right? So that actually talked with some of the people from Gnowbe, for some of your people as well. And I was thinking a great fit, and they said, yeah, we're doing that, would be training volunteers or training staff. How has Gnowbe been used in those arenas?
Yeah, no, it's especially when people are on the go, because when you're in a mobile first environment, you're usually not carrying your laptops around, but you're on the go. So having something in your pocket, access to content that was designed for the phone, not meant to squeeze into a phone, it makes a really big difference. For volunteer training, especially so with Crew globally, who works with us in different countries, I think one of the reasons why they partner with us is we have offline accessibility. So when you have a mobile app, now when you're in countries, if you're doing evangelism and you have poor Wi-Fi or poor data connection, you can download the content and then access it offline and then upload it when you're back online again, which is huge for really reaching, kind of the ends of the world, with technology in ways that you can't do with a PC.
Okay, so let me jump in here because we have pastors and people involved in ministry primarily listening. We're a streaming company, but we like to provide resources. I was a pastor for years, so I'm listening to this podcast right now, and I'm thinking, okay, Gnowbe, and Steve touched on it. Steve talked about training volunteers and stuff for the church. So ministries and churches can use this. What else can they use this for? And by the way, I loved what you were talking about when it comes to how people learn things, because my spiritual gift is teaching. And so when I first started in ministry, I thought everybody's going to want to hear what I'm going to say here. I'm going to teach the word, and do all that stuff. And over the years, I learned, okay, people are more interested in stories and, connecting all that stuff up. But tell me what else Gnowbe can be used for ministry in the church.
Absolutely. In fact, we can even share a link. We called it the Christian Creator for Gnowbe to share some primary use cases. One is Bible studies. Let's bring the word to life. And I'm really a big proponent of this. It's living the word and walking in faith is not about knowing the word. It's about living the word, which is why we have Bible study. Imagine if you were to Gnowbify every Bible study and have, instead of printed out activity sheets, everything digitized in your small group where everyone is communicating and engaging with each other. It will increase accountability. Even if I missed it, I still get access. 40-day prayer fast. You can even do 365 days daily prayer, where you're just going in, inspiring the whole church to pray together and meditate on a word. You can do sermons and Gnowbify sermons. So now that as a pastor, you preach your sermon and you ask 3 or 4 reflection questions every week. What do you plan to do, take away from my sermon, from my message? What impact has that had? How can we pray for you, right? And then do that in a community context. And then, of course, there's your basic onboarding and staff membership. You have a new member who joined your church. They don't know where all your committees are. I mean, it's in some pamphlet somewhere on some website somewhere. Welcome them to your church. Get them to be onboarded with a welcome video from the pastor, right? And have it a multimedia experience where they share why they even attended and joined your church in the first place. So you can give them a lot of content in a structured journey. So you're almost like guiding them on a path without physically being there all the time, but you can still be there. So it's really supporting the human experience. And that's how we always talk about humanizing the world, because tech shouldn't replace, I think, the human experience in this case, but should support and enhance it and give you more data so that you can do a better job of engaging with your existing, new, and potential volunteers.
Yeah. Tell me about the social side of things. So we have a small group that actually meets at our house every week, and we go through a lesson, and it's kind of the traditional deal where the churches kind of provide some leader discussion guide stuff, and they try to get the conversation going. And it's once a week, and so that we're not interacting between meetings, other than we'll see each other at church maybe, or we may do some interaction. But Gnowbe is kind of designed, this is I guess the Instagram side of things as well. How does that part of it work? So if I'm in a weekly study with my small group and I'm using Gnowbe, how's that different than what I'm doing now, where I'm just, we got a leader, he's kind of asking questions during the meeting, and then everyone leaves and we're gone, we're gone till next week.
I think you kind of answered the question there, Phil. So how it's different is it wouldn't be that.
Okay.
It would be a conversation where everyone in your small group would essentially, and it's really easy to create. And by the way, Gnowbe is, you can start for free. So anyone can have a free workspace. So you can create one for your Bible study this week. It would take you probably 10 minutes. So you would download it, you would create Bible study week 1. And then you would have maybe the 3 or 4 questions that the Bible study leader was meant to facilitate. And so then everyone gets to write down, instead of writing on a piece of paper that they throw away, you would write it into the app. Hey, like, this is my answer to question 1, 2, and 3, share. And then everyone in that small group would be able to see each other's answers. So it's actually way more inclusive, because sometimes you have introverts who are not as vocal in a small group setting, and might need a bit more time to think about it. And then after that, they may need the rest of the week to reflect and ponder on that. So you can give them extra content if you wanted, or just say, hey, for those who missed it, go into session 1 and answer those questions. We'd love to get your thoughts, and we'd love to pray for you. Add your prayer request there. Everyone gets access to it, share, has conversations, and then you come back the next week. So you're really deepening the Bible study experience. And it's not going to replace, the in-person conversation discussion you're having, but but giving people a moment to reflect on what they've learned in terms of retention and the application is profound.
Yeah, I see, and I've led, I've been the leader this past semester, and it's always really challenging, because you'll ask a question and everybody's like, okay, I've heard the question for the first time, and now I'm thinking about it, and no one says anything. And if everyone had been in the app all week long, and it's not a huge commitment, I think, of them daily, it's like a 5-minute daily devotion kind of thing. If they were going through this and we're interacting, we'd be excited to get back together during the week and like, Susan, why did you answer this way? Or why I'm jumping off of your comment here. I can really see it taking our interaction in the group dynamics up to another level, where we're eager to talk to each other when we get there, rather than kind of the leader asking questions and getting, first time impression answers. And
it's going from a one-way kind of teacher-student interaction to a facilitator-led conversation. And what we have heard from churches who have done it for Bible studies, they've said it's actually created deeper intimacy. Because some people, for some reason, they feel safer typing some of their you have people share their whole life story, on posts on social media, where they may not share that with you in person, but they're more willing to post and type things out. And so you have the opportunity then to be like, oh my gosh, I didn't really know that was happening in your life. Or, when you share a prayer request, well, thank you so much for sharing that. So unless you had that time to say, Steve, let me pull you aside at the end and say, how can I pray for you? I may not know that. But if you post it, and even if you didn't have time to talk about it, I would know that. And I'd be like, hey, Steve, I prayed for you this week. It's a totally different kind of experience.
What inspired you? Let me jump in here. What inspired you so young? I mean, did you just wake up one morning and go, hey, we need to do this? Or was there something that motivated you, experience, good experience, bad experience? I mean, what inspired you to do this?
Well, there's a bigger why. The bigger purpose, which is a longer podcast, is God called me into my calling, which is really to develop people and help people to be at their best. And that's my life mission. So my first company was running Awaken, and we were doing these massive transformation of large, organizations, and we wanted to scale the mindset change that we were doing. So we were looking for software and technology to help us, because, we needed to scale to thousands of people. And so what tools did we have? Email, PowerPoint, SurveyMonkey, Mentimeter. Like we just did not have really good tools to really track and measure mindset and behavior change. And then we thought, that's bizarre. There's no tools out there. I actually thought there would be something that was better than what we had been using. And lo and behold, we couldn't find anything. And then I was like, oh my gosh, there must be millions of people just like me who have this need, who truly care about changing lives, changing mindsets and behaviors at massive scale, which basically is the church, and beyond the church. And I can't believe a tool doesn't exist. And so that is what embarked us on this journey. And so I'm not a techie at all. I created this for myself. I created it to help to have more impact.
What was the time frame? When did Gnowbe
It
come?
was conceptualized starting in 2015. It was like a prototype. Then in late 2016, we kind of launched it. And then, and then we keep evolving it because it's a software, it's a SaaS solution. We keep evolving it, and changing. And we have some really interesting things, which I may share with you guys in a bit of what's coming soon.
Yeah, let's, and we've been, I got to tell the backstory here. We were both at the AI hackathon in Boulder, and you said you were there kind of on accident, and I was there as one of the participants in the hackathon, and Phil was part of the hackathon as well. He was serving remotely; he wasn't actually there. And we're waiting in line in the bathroom, waiting in line to get into the bathroom, and we struck up a conversation. So.
The start of all great relationships.
Yes, yeah, which was great. So we were, and you instantly, I kind of explained what we did and what we were doing at the hackathon, and you saw a great opportunity to align our efforts here. And we've been working with your company a little bit over the past few weeks. But what's going on? What's coming up? Are you free to say?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Steve, I mean, I think, and Phil, just being on this podcast too, and that's one of the things, we'd love to partner to Gnowbify your podcasts and bring your podcast to life. But just adding 2 or 3 questions to the end of every podcast so that your audiences could then reflect and share with each other what they're learning and what they plan to do from the value of these 408 podcasts is amazing.
More than that, actually, but that's when we started to count.
which is incredible, right? And imagine if we could build a community now of people who are sharing what they're learning from your podcast and be able to share that with other people. I think you could just take it to a whole nother level. So we'd love to partner with you on that. Some of the exciting things that happen, there are 2 exciting things happening. One of them is automated translation, partially because of folks like Crew who spend a lot of time and money translating, their content, because of evangelism in different countries. So we're introducing an automatic translator tool that's coming out in the next few weeks to help support actually Crew and others. And then the second one is something called a Gnowbot. So the Gnowbot, of course, is going to be spelled with a G, just to make it really hard to spell. on the on the thing, but the Gnowbot is going to be this AI powered content creator, so that you'll be able to put in, teach my staff basic Excel skills, and it will automatically spit out a Gnobified experience that will then teach them anything that you put into the prompt. And so I think that's going to be really exciting to really dramatically reduce content creation, and beyond just creating bites of content, but designing it in a way that is grounded in instructional design research, so that it's interactive, it's social, it's participatory, so that the impact is there for the community. And of course, measurable. So that's the thing that's we are launching beta tests now, and we're getting early signups for previews, and that will be coming out in the next few weeks. And we think that's really going to be a game changer to help. And then, for churches, you could put in, create a Bible study on 1 Corinthians, and then have something come up. Yeah.
And we just recently rolled out a feature that we're excited that we be able to Gnowbify in the future here as well. So we've got some audio devotions as well as some audio podcast tools that the churches can automatically create. So we're excited about some opportunities there. So how is Gnowbe, I guess you've probably already answered this. Phil put together some questions before we got going, and we maybe covered all of them, but how is Gnowbe different from, are there competitors out there in this space for this kind of interactive learning? And if so, how is Gnowbe different from those?
It's a great question. And I think the word interactive, means different things to different people. So some people, when they say interactive, they mean there are quizzes and pop-up questions and things like that and polls. What we really mean, and I'll just give you an acronym because it's just easier to remember. Gnowbe is grounded in something we call MPPG. So it's mobile first micro learning. So it's kind of bite-sized content. There are a lot of micro learning players that are emerging. So that alone is not unique. Participatory, this part is quite unique. Not that many people are inviting you to participate with your answers. So imagine, Steve, if you answered something in your Bible study, it would say, hey, Steve, last week you had asked us to pray for this. How is that going? Right. So that's very, very kind of participatory and personalized. The second P is personalized. So it's participatory and personalized. So you and I could be going through the same Bible study, but your experience and mine would be different because obviously my answers would be different. So the impact would be different. So that's the personalization. And then group-based, so very social. So if you combine MPPG together, we have not seen anyone who combines those things together. But individually, there are lots of micro-learning players. There are AI companies are popping up every other day. So the individual components are not unique and they're competitors. The combination, I believe, is quite unique. It's grounded in about 30 years of research on instructional design, behavior design, and gamification theory, and a lot of motivation research, which I shared a little bit with you. And so our, I guess, secret sauce is the combination of those things, which we call micro-learning instructional design.
So there's always, anytime you start anything, whether it's a church or tech stuff, there's always challenges. What kind of challenges have you come across in making this thing work?
Which ones have I not come up with? I guess is I think there are so many challenges. I think interestingly, one of the visions that God gave me in Gnowbe and why we're mobile first and not web first, mobile enabled, was because I had this vision that we were going to reach 1 billion people with the gospel. And in order to reach 1 billion people with the gospel, you have to do it on this mobile phone because that's a device that the most of the world is using now, especially if you go into developing countries. And so in doing that, I think there have been so many challenges of just mindset. The biggest challenge and barrier is mindset. Well, we've always done it this way. Bible studies have always been done with printed paper and worksheets and a facilitator and a guide. Sermons have always been done with a pastor sit in the front and the congregation sitting and listening passively for 30 minutes. Like we've always done it that way. It works, So having people change their mindsets about the way they create the content is the number one biggest barrier, even though there is just so much data and research on why it's actually more effective from a behavior, from a life transformational perspective. There's tons of data on it. It's just the cognitive, even though it's more impactful, the science and research has proven it for decades. Human behavior and mindset of I've always done it this way is probably the biggest hurdle that we face every day. And we're kind of disrupting the way people have done things for at least PowerPoint is about 40 years old as a software. So at least 40 years of behavior is hard to change. And most teaching is done via PowerPoint, right? Or Google Slides or some equivalent, right? And it's 40 years old, guys. We can do better. We can do better.
So if I'm a church listening right now and I think this is really interesting, I want to give this a try. What would be, probably not willing to say, hey, we're not meeting this Sunday and I'm not preaching, but there may be other opportunities for the church to implement this. What would be what's a good starter area in the church? Is it Bible studies? Is it training staff? Is it training volunteers? What would you recommend?
Yeah, I would start with the people. Find the people in your staff who are pioneering, innovative, and willing to try new things. And if they happen to be in the youth group, grab that person. If they happen to be the admin, grab that person. So whoever is the most, I think, open to trying new things, and then have them have a go with it. So, and because they can download the app for free, and then they can also create on the web, on web.gnowbe.com, they can create a free account and just get started. There are lots of templates there, so they can start with templates. So that would be the easiest way to get started. We also are about to launch next week a Christian content library subscription for churches. So actually, even easier way to create is to consume. So we have content from Union School of Theology and David C. Cook, so that churches can subscribe, and they've notified books like Case for Christianity. I mean, really cool stuff, the animated stuff. And so if they wanted to subscribe, I can share those links with you because it'll launch next week. If they want to subscribe, then at least they can start to consume the content, which is easy, low barrier. And then I go, wow. And then once they experience how different it is, then some might have the confidence then to build their own.
I love this, the new word, nobified. They nobified it. I love that.
They notified it. They did. And they did a great job. Yeah, they did a great job.
So we're running out of time here, unfortunately. So-Young Kang has been our guest today. She is the founder of Gnowbe. So again, as we wrap up here, I'm listening to this podcast. I'm a pastor. How do I get Gnowbe? What do? I go to the App Store. Tell me how to get it.
Well, my recommendation, if you're a church, go to web.gnowbe.com and create a free account.
Yeah, okay. So web.gnowbe.com. Gnowbe.
All right.
Stands for grow knowledge into being, if you forget the spelling. Gnowbe with a gnome. Think of gnomes. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. And look, if somebody has a question for you, I mean, they can always reach out to us at streamingchurch.tv, but should they go to your LinkedIn? How can somebody have a little communication with you?
Absolutely. People are welcome to connect with me. I love connecting with believers and the church. It's on LinkedIn, or you can always email hello@gnowbe.com. And you can say, I want to speak to So-Young, because it'll be easier for you to remember the email address. But we're happy and we love to connect with you.
And it's easy to remember your name, So-Young.
It is easy to remember. So for those who want to email me personally, it's skang, S-K-A-N-G. But if you don't forget, remember that, and remember hello@gnowbe.com. You can email us or connect on LinkedIn. And there's tons of resources which we're happy to share, and free resources for churches as well.
All right. That's awesome. All right. So our guest today, So-Young Kang, the founder of Gnowbe. We sure appreciate you, and thank you for staying up late in Singapore to talk to us today.
No, it's been a huge blessing to connect with both of you. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we hope to do that again. And we love what you're doing. I think it's great. So folks, thank you for spending some time with us today on the Church Solutions podcast. You can always reach out to us at streamingchurch.tv, and we'll help you connect up with So-Young as well as anybody else we have here. And we'll wrap things up today. So thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. And be sure and subscribe to the Church Solutions podcast so you'll never miss an episode. So take care of yourselves and each other. I'm Phil Thompson for Steve Lacy. Have yourselves a great day.